I've been a prepper for decades, but this past week I engaged in some prepping activities that I haven't bothered with in years. In this video I want to talk about it because it's based on something that's happening right now.
Better believe in your mind, 'cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything.
Hey everybody, this is Praxis. Usually on my channel I'll do videos about food storage in the pantry or hat videos or working in the garden. Today, later in this video, I want to talk a little bit about foliar spraying that I've been doing here on the orchard. We've been having a bit of a fungal issue, and that's a pretty important topic that I want to address a little bit later in this video. But primarily in this video, I'm going to do something different than I usually do on my channel, which is to talk towards the goal of issuing a bit of a wake-up call for anybody that has gotten a little bit complacent when it comes to prepping and preparedness. And I know here on my channel most of the time I'm talking about homesteading things around that I'm doing around the house, and all that stuff protects me from emergency events, but it doesn't necessarily scream people need to start taking this stuff seriously right now. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit in this video, because things are really tensioning up, and over the past week I've really shifted gears in what I've been doing in terms of my preps here at my place. I know that a lot of people here in the prepping community were hopeful when Donald Trump was reelected, myself included. I didn't have necessarily a lot of positive expectations about what a second term was going to look like, but I was hopeful. One of the nicest things about Donald Trump's first term in office, and I remember mentioning this after he was out of office, was that he was the first president in a long time to not start any new conflicts around the world. Now, he was continuing some conflicts that the United States was already engaged in, but there was a real reluctance on his part, it seemed, to engage in any new conflicts or to ratchet up tension in pre-existing conflicts. And I thought that that was a positive thing. I'm a fan of peace and a fan of not killing people. So whenever anybody acts in a way that seems to be moving away from death and killing and destruction, I think that's a positive thing, whether Donald Trump does it or Biden does it or anybody does it. And I remember commenting on that after his term in office. I also remember just around the time of the last election, I think it was before the election was decided and probably after as well, I talked about how I was not particularly optimistic that we were necessarily going to see a repeat of that. I did a video that was something along the lines of the idea that the personality isn't as important as the facts on the ground, the reality of the situation on the ground, that it's really the facts of the ground facts that people, politicians are thrust into, that really tend to push things wherever they're going to go. Now, you have transformational leaders from time to time that really grab history and bend it, hopefully in a positive direction, sometimes in a negative direction. But usually leaders, quote unquote leaders, tend to follow. They follow the facts on the ground. They follow what they think is going to be popular, what is going to make them popular. And I think Donald Trump certainly falls into that mold too. He's certainly not a transformational leader. There are transformational aspects to him, but one interesting thing about Donald Trump is that he talks big, but he tends to pull punches ultimately, and then that can be a positive thing and a negative thing, but that tends to be the nature of Donald Trump in terms of how he conducts himself. So while I was hopeful that we would get a rehash of his first term, which was reasonably peaceful in terms of geopolitical interactions around the world, I wouldn't say that I was optimistic about it. And things so far have been living down to my expectations. One of the things that you can do when you see things going in a negative direction around the world is, or just in your local area or whatever, is to hedge yourself against certain outcomes happening. That's essentially prepping. You take an action in case something happens. In terms of insurance, something like car insurance, auto insurance, that is a hedge against the financial downsides of being in a car collision, where you're putting effort into something that you hope never pays off. And that's the way a lot of preps are, is where I hope I never need to use my nuclear fallout shelter, but it's there if you need it, so that if that event unfolds, then the ramifications of it, the consequences of it for you will be lessened because you engage in that hedge. Now, my favorite hedges are the types of things that pay off whether or not a disaster happens or not. Filling your pantry with food, I think, is a great hedge against inflation, and hyperinflation is one of the things that I am preparing for going into the future. Conflict and hyperinflation, when you get to the end of empire, it's always one of those or the other, and oftentimes both, where when you get towards the end of empire, that empire will start having a more belligerent, bellicose sort of stance towards the rest of the world, and they will tend to debase their currency to try to keep up with what they're trying to, their flailings, their death flailings. So hedges against hyperinflation, hedges against violence are things that I like to engage in. And I like to, as I said, engage in things that pay off either way. And like I said, putting food in the pantry is a great way of doing that. Not only is it a hedge against inflation possible in terms of the price of food going up. If you know that you can get something for $1 this year, and next year it's likely to be $1.50, buying it this year guarantees you're going to save that 50 cents. Additionally, if you buy things in bulk on sale and put them into your pantry, that has an immediate benefit for your normal day-to-day life because you're capitalizing on kind of buying the dip, so to speak. In terms of investing, when there's a dip in values, you can take advantage of that, and then you can kind of spread that forward. So whenever you're consuming things out of your pantry, if you've filled up your pantry with things that were always on sale, all the food that you're eating is all food that's on sale, and you save a lot of money doing it that way. Another type of hedge against hyperinflation, and that's what I want to talk about specifically in this video, and I'm going to get to talk about the foliar spray in a little bit as well. Another hedge against inflation is precious metals, and that's something that I've engaged in myself for a long time, but I don't talk about it very much at all on my channel. Maybe 2 or 3 times I've mentioned it here on my channel. That and firearms are things that I engage in, and I have those preps at my place, but they're not things that I tend to talk about. Also, security here at our house, again, not something I tend to talk about. And sometimes I'm concerned that just because I don't talk about things here on my channel, that it will convey to people that I don't think that they're important. There are reasons why I don't talk about security procedures, defensive capabilities, precious metals and things of that nature, because I just think it's unwise to talk about that stuff online. But I did want to mention it in this video because I think that they are sensible ways of hedging against violence, hedging against hyperinflation, and specifically precious metals. I've been reluctant for the past couple of years to acquire any more precious metals. They were something I was kind of engaged in years ago, and then I had a couple of tight years where there wasn't any surplus money. And on that topic, before I get into precious metals, I should say, if you have surplus money and you want to put it into something, do not get into precious metals until you've covered all your other bases. Gardening, having food in your pantry, all the other stuff that you know that you're actually going to use. Precious metals are something that you should get into, if you do decide to get into it, only after you've covered all those other bases. It's ridiculous to just have a bunch of precious metals but no food. A lot of people will say, well, I'll get the precious metals and I'll be able to buy the food. But in the initial stages of a collapse, I've got a fairly big pantry, and I do talk about it here on my channel. I'm sure you guys have seen it. If somebody came here during the early stages of a collapse, and I didn't know how long it was going to last, and they had a bunch of gold with them, and they want to take a bunch of food from me, like, how receptive do you think I'm going to be to that? Because you can't eat gold. Well, actually, some rich people do. They use it as like a condiment. They'll flake gold onto things just to show how rich they are. Your ability to buy things with gold is limited to people's willingness to sell things to you for gold. So if you haven't covered all the other bases, like food, I recommend against getting into gold and precious metals. But if you have covered all those other things, if you feel like you have money in the bank and you're concerned about the value of that money sinking, investing that money in different things like food or commodities that you know that you're going to use, or metals, is a way of kind of locking in the value of that wealth, before it it falls if you are going to get into a hyperinflation kind of situation. So in the past, I had engaged in precious metals buying, but I've been really reluctant for the past couple of years with tensions really ratcheting up around the world. The price of precious metals, I'll just use gold as an example, have really started skyrocketing, which in some ways, I guess, is kind of good from my standpoint. It means that the precious metals that I bought in the past, it was a good idea to have acquired those, because had I not acquired those, from the time that I started purchasing to about now, it's somewhere around 3 times or 4 times the value. So if I had not engaged in that and I just left my wealth as money, what that essentially means is that the value of my money reduced down to 1/4 of its previous value. So if I had not engaged in getting the precious metals and just left that stuff as cash, its value would have diminished by quite a bit. So it seems like it was a wise idea, but I wasn't super happy about it because I like the idea of kind of continuously acquiring that. But as the value shot up, I kind of stopped. I had some thin years where I didn't have extra money to invest, and by the time I had a little bit of extra money at the end of the year, the value had just gone up so much. I didn't feel comfortable buying. The gold was around $32, $33, $34, $35, $100 an ounce. It had gone up so much, I didn't feel comfortable investing, because the last time I bought gold, it was so many fewer dollars that were required to buy it. So I was kind of waiting for a dip, buy the dip, like we mentioned earlier, like you're buying groceries when they're on sale. I didn't want to be buying at the peak. So leading up to Donald Trump's ultimate election and thereafter, I was kind of waiting to see if we were going to have that kind of thawing, that honeymoon kind of period, where we'd see shades of the earlier Donald Trump that was pulling away from a lot of conflict around the world, and we would get that kind of peace dividend, even if the peace dividend was artificial, even if it was short-lived, even if it was just the collective sense that finally all these wars are coming to a close, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. Even if it was artificial, I was waiting for that dip, artificial or not, to take advantage of it. And I was waiting and waiting, and this past week I stopped waiting, because I'm getting to the point where I don't think there's going to be that dip. Now going forward, there's going to be ups and downs, and that's just the nature of it. And maybe very well in the future there is going to be that dip. But I started thinking along the lines of, what if there is not that dip? What if things just keep ratcheting up and up and up, and the value of my money that I have keeps going down and down and down and down? What is the risk in not kind of locking in? So I've started doing some purchasing again in terms of metals, and I'm not recommending that you do or don't. It might be a mistake that I'm doing it, but I think on the long-term horizon, in terms of the ultimate conflicts that we're headed towards, and with the amount of debt that the United States is accruing, and with this new big beautiful bill, all the additional deficit spending that's associated with that, it seems like there's no appetite for pulling back, and really the only outcome that I can see is conflict, war, hyperinflation, or a combination of all of these things. And if those are the outcome, it will have been a good choice to have invested, even though the perceptual price of the metals is so much higher than it used to be. So I've started purchasing again, and again, I'm not recommending that you necessarily do or don't, but I'd recommend that you think about it, because it's very common, and I think we're all susceptible to this, to have kind of our wishes for the way that we would like the world to be. And with the re-election of Donald Trump, I had the wish that we would experience that kind of that thawing, that honeymoon period again, where we'd get that kind of drawing down of tension, and I'd be able to take advantage of that. That was my wish. That was my hope. But being realistic about things is really important, and sometimes things don't go the way that you want them to go. I think this is one of those situations. So that's what I've been doing over the past week. Tensions continue to rise and rise and rise, and I've just been topping off all my preps and trying to get ready for what's coming. And mentioned I was going to talk a little bit about foliar spraying. We've had some fungal issues here at our place, and mostly just exclusively in our peach trees. We have apple trees here, we've got peach trees, we've got plum trees, pear trees. Just the peach trees have had some kind of a fungal wilt. And I've been trying to work with it over the past couple years, but it's just been spreading. First it started with a foliar spray that was copper-based, and that kind of didn't seem to do anything. I really like using this device, and I want to talk about this in this video. This is made by DB Smith. It's a bleach and chemical sprayer. This is one of my preps. I bought this originally for the possibility of pandemics because it can be used for bleach and chemicals. I could spray things down. Never got to a point during COVID where I ever felt like I needed to use this, but it was for the idea of a really severe pandemic disease situation. That's one of the great things about preps is that a lot of preps can be used for lots of different things, and because I had this for pandemics, when I needed to use it for foliar spraying, I had it ready to go. And one of the great things about using something like this is, as opposed to those little handheld sprayers where you just buy it and it's like a little squirt bottle and you kind of spray on your foliar issue, is well, twofold. One, it comes back to what I said about buying groceries when they're on sale. You can get concentrates. I've been spraying neem oil, N-E-E-M. I don't know whether that works. I'm not advocating for it in this video. This is my first time I've been using it, but I know the copper sprays didn't work for me. I was able to get a concentrate, and that concentrate was good for something like 20 gallons, and it cost $20. So for $1 a gallon, I'm able to do my spraying. Now, if I bought those little handheld bottles, in order to get 20 gallons worth of that, have been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So having this where I can do my own mixing in here saves an enormous amount of money because I can get the concentrates. And also, this sprayer works so much better in terms of spraying trees than the little handheld sprayers. I'd have to get up on a ladder and I'd be doing the whole thing. It was kind of ridiculous. It was probably just because it was the first time I was ever doing it. I even thought to use the handheld sprayers. But this is great. You can tune the tip and shoot way up in the air and have it kind of rain down on the tree. I was hitting the treetops just from the ground, able to spray like good 10, 12 feet up in the air. You can get the bottom sides of the leaves, top sides of the leaves. It shoots several feet horizontally, so you can get into the deep foliage of the tree. I'm going to see how it works. That's another thing that I think a lot of people have issue with when it comes to prepping and preparedness, is that they kind of wait and just, there's people that buy gold and they figure, well, I'll buy the food that I need when the emergency happens, or I'll buy the seeds that I need when the emergency happens, and they don't spend any time kind of practicing things leading up to events. A lot of people don't realize the difficulty of a lot of things. You don't just take seeds and cast them out onto the bare ground that's not even like garden soil necessarily. You just like throw them out on your lawn and you'll grow a garden. It just doesn't work that way. You need the soil quality to be at a certain level. The physical characteristics of the soil need to be at a certain level, and you have a pest kind of situation. And I don't like the word pest because pests are just like people. They're trying to make their life the same way that we're trying to make ours. Sometimes we get in conflict with each other, and then we call them pests, and they probably think of us as pests as well. But there's all types of things like that. I grew sunchokes one year, and it was a huge bumper crop, tons and tons of sunchokes. Really, really great crop. And then the voles came in. And the voles, I knew that we had voles moving in over the winter, but I knew that there were just so many sunchokes, like they couldn't possibly eat all of them. They nearly did. And it's all sorts of situations like that you need to have experience with. You try growing a garden, things happen, you need to know how to respond to them. And if you just got the gold and you don't have any of the experience, you're going to be in rough shape when the rubber meets the road and you actually have to start doing things. So, it's important to practice this stuff early. It's also fun and enjoyable. You get exercise doing a lot of this stuff. You get fresh air being outside doing this kind of stuff. And it's an enjoyable, laid-back lifestyle. That's one of the big dividends of being, kind of a homesteading prepper, is that it's a really beautiful lifestyle. It's peaceful out here. There's birds everywhere. It's quiet. The air is great out here. The water's great out here. It's a wonderful lifestyle. Even if it didn't have any preparation kind of benefits, I'd want to live it, either way. Just very healthy and emotionally satisfying, wonderful lifestyle. So that's it. I know on my channel oftentimes I don't talk about things with a lot of urgency. Whenever I release a video about like we have 72 hours or we have 48 hours to survive, to live before like we all die, it's always like the title is always, you know, me talking about like kind of that in an ironic sense and talking about how like that's not like a particularly realistic way of looking at things. Ironically, I get a lot of comments on those videos, people saying how crazy I am to suggest that the world's about to end. Like they'll come 72 hours later and they're like, the world didn't end. And it's like, you know, you gotta at least watch the video in order to comment on the video. So, you know, I don't tend to have a lot of urgency here on my channel. I'm just kind of like, keep doing what you're doing, make your situation better and better every day. But sometimes there are times when you're moving into a period of history where, you know, you got to take it more serious. You got to put the pedal to the metal a little bit more, and you know, stay awake and aware. And I think this is one of those periods. Hope you found this video both enjoyable, lengthy, and useful. And thank you for watching. Hey YouTube preppers, if you enjoyed this video, here's another that I think you might like. But before you click on it, I wanted to take a moment to thank all the people you see on the right-hand side of your screen. They help to support all the work that I do here over at patreon.com. If you'd like to join them and get your name added to the list, the link's below.